questions regarding this, regarding revision? Otherwise, we'll move on.
Yeah, revision means actually currently what I was doing that whatever assignments they were doing, right? So I was going back at least in a week with all those questions. So
Nice.
that I was doing, but the same thing which you told right now, like once we solved at that time, I was very confident. Even at the next day, I remember that yeah, this was the approach. This variable I need to take, this data structure I need to use here.
Yeah.
But as soon as I do it after 4 to 5 days, the same thing is means I'm taking more time. So the revision is one thing which I need to practice daily. I think even 1 or 2 hours, whatever I can give, I should give revision. And the new problems that I can encounter, I can start in the Saturdays and Sundays, because revision is more important than solving some new questions. Right? So
Trust me, at least I strongly believe in that. Even if
yeah,
you, end of the day, suppose you don't get time, you leave graphs and dynamic programmings,
mm,
the chances of questions coming from trees, recursion, arrays is much more than, so it is better to be strong at least what you have done.
right.
Then after that, if they ask you a question which you don't know, anyways, it's okay. So,
Right.
so yeah, keep that focus on revision strongly. I think you're already doing it, but continue it along with
Yeah,
the new things that you learn. So you can always take a step back, revise, then move, because you have the luxury of time. You're not in a hurry,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It is better to be foolproof with your preparation. Another thing specifically for your case, since you mentioned that you are from a EC background and you are learning about all the computing concepts now, make sure that you read up properly on OOPS principles. Because see, some companies, it depends on company to company. So when you're giving Amazon, Microsoft, Google, I am not sure about Apple interviews, but yeah, the fourth one being Facebook, the so-called FANG companies that they call, right? So when you're giving these companies, they won't ask you questions like, mostly they won't ask you questions like OOPS and Java basics, and they won't. They will have a DS algo round for you. They might have a low-level design round, and then they'll have a manager round. But there are a lot of other good companies also, like this Intuit, Visa, Oracle, multiple companies, say Book My Show, then Make My Trip, multiple good product companies who do good work. They might ask you about these concepts. Since you have 1.5 years of experience, it is expected, and you want to move towards the IT role, it is expected that you know such things. So make sure you study up properly on the OOPS principles, not just the definition part of it, but the implementation. Like for example, polymorphism, a practical example of function overloading or overriding, things like that. Like if someone asks you, you should be able to put it down.
Got it.
Again, about interfaces and inheritance. When would you use inheritance? When would you use interface? So make sure, take your time, but do this properly, like the core concepts. And I was going to do a resume review later, but since we are talking about it, since you've mentioned Java, some of these good product companies, they will have a full specific round of Java also. See, obviously they won't grill you too much, because at 2 years of experience, they don't expect you to know everything. But they will ask you, like, there are core Java concepts, right? Like what is a string pool? What is heap memory? What is stack memory? It is good. What is multi-threading in Java? Simple threading questions like use 2 threads to print even and odd numbers. So these questions will help you build concepts around Java if you have mentioned it. So you can always go to an interview and say, I have not worked on Java. Fine, no issues. But since you mentioned it, make sure that you do the basics properly.